Oh, the paper, the Kundumabata, the Nindaman, Traja Karaja, Samala, the Trashi direction. The data yam the curry, the Sajig, Papa, Lala, the Sajig, Samba, Sevi, get it, Omag, Jad, Tapkilla, Tapkin, Chopaba, Saji Tabla Cable, something Cheme Party. Then Gaso Sebi, the Samba Chum mother, you come, order to order Parayam. Saji, Samba, Simpi, Tamjil, Chapa Samba Chembo, Daddy.
Tashidele to all my friends, all the guests who have gathered here, and also all of you who are following us on the live stream from around the world. Tashidele to all of you. And also I offer you this milk tea of loving kindness that comes from the Buddha's begging bowl. And it is a skillful method given to us by the Buddha's immeasurable love for sentient beings. We ordinary beings possess love, but our love is very small, and it only extends to our friends, our dear ones. But the Buddha's love is a love for all sentient beings. It's immeasurable love. So that is what I'm offering you, Dashitelek. So even though I'm the one who is drinking the milk tea, all sentient beings are in my belly. And if I think of them that way, then my mind pervades them all. So my mind pervades them all with loving kindness. So it's not like they are actually getting that milk tea.
Thank you. dollar kind of choose by the kind of simply they were the don't the top the Sanji to the some of the way they let the Tabi Chiloka some of the Sunam the simply the don't need the cargo the joke on it. They were the big old the joke on it. Just something, just something, they were just something. Everything on it is I took them just Haji.
And so all of you coming here, you have not encountered difficulties in coming here on your way here. So I'm happy for that, and also I'm very grateful that you were all able to come, because it's actually very meaningful. This gathering is very meaningful. And why? So generally we speak about two systems. There is the system of the holy dharma or the spiritual system, and then there is the mundane, the worldly system. And the dharma system is much more profound. And the reason is that in the dharma we think about merit. So in brief, what dharma really means is it is a method that the Buddha had found, a method to bring about the happiness of sentient beings and a method to free them from suffering. So when we think about the Dharma, what we are thinking about is merit, and merit is related to the causes that we create. So based on causes, we want sentient beings to be free from suffering and to possess happiness. And so what is that cause of happiness that we wish for sentient beings? It is immeasurable love. That is what we need to recognize. And the Buddha, therefore, taught bodhicitta. And that is essentially really the goal of any religion or any dharma. And so between the spiritual system of the Dharma and the mundane system of the people, there is a huge difference. It is like the earth and the sky. They are distant in the sense that now in the mundane tradition, we focus only on the material world, the things that we can see, things that we can hear, things that we can touch, that we come into physical contact with. We see things with our eyes, and we hear things with our ears, and we touch things with our hands. We touch each other. And so this existence where we focus only on the material reality is what we call the mundane worldly system. So it is mundane because we are only fixated on the material world. However, the Buddha taught that this material world is subject to disintegration. It is impermanent. All compounded phenomena are impermanent. So the Buddha said that you all mistakenly believe that all of this has any true lasting reality when it doesn't. One day it will all perish, all come to an end. And you ordinary beings do not understand the real causes of suffering. You're only looking at the results of suffering. That is a big mistake. So that is why the Buddha taught that the worldly mundane way is mistaken.
Teri jyoti kolo samno tangne, jyoti saa koreesi. Dewa jyokangne dine tini tada, leidu deti ina pamne. Dewa jyoti chu chiya ngama yunrungbo la change, yigi lule nupa matangi. Tiri devareesi. Teda lule na same paati. Teri lule na same semna dewa jongu yore. Teri dewa jyokare ta samjere tiri chu chasam sam koreesi. Chasam sam chu mulito yore, roara dongni. Mulito te kari samjere tiri rang lugu gewara tiri, tata chu mulito te, jyoti koro samno tona. Te tata te talo jyoti koro samno, jyoti taa tiri, chasam sam je tsaa kari la togo, tsaa samjere tore. Dajijiga chikpareesi. Lula dewa kuru kowa dewa kogu yoreesi. Kogu dewa kuru ye koro watagiga mariesi. Yinu ijepte panji. 사실 이는 이제 빵고래서 이 빵이서 이피 이제 저거다 강피 이제 거래서 이는 피다 거래서 대대는 강피 피더라 다 데베 저들이 삼제용나 이 삼제용나 별로 삼제 지길래 대사라 대다들이 저러티네 수남사 대수남사 삭스로 거래 수남사는 들이 빼가래 되네 매 수남지대나 이만하기래서 뛰어와리 제와 체라를 가 성내가 님들 강해 좀 말이지 대 가와요 잡으려 다다 요래 늘 나타매 봐 생각 동해 봐 말함니 말하라고 님들 말에 못해 되는 데 로자 칼라 되니 대다 요래 대답이죠 무슨 소리를 했지 대답을 삼는다는 대대 대고 나타다 대화도 저도 가려리 ta chia me yun mu ngi sam te te da ko da ta je no ba pa ri jote re ta te la ta ga ta ma un quan ga su nam te ta go de je sam te de zong do sam te sam te da ko ja le te sam te da ko ja ba te sa je ga te le dong ne ma le da de do le jo jo ko sa je ji min se me chong song che ji de le la ni su ji me te ta je le te ta da ko dong ne ta che jo ka re Tenzin dachidiga loratini, setanga je chado laso quagadri, lugaga leche pa te tabjelatini. Ta nyawa yeda tulu trini da lugarlo, mela ta lugarlo dungen yor te tabje jaratini jogori. Tele te ta monda deva de deve jeta dembar jote. Ta sabti gogori. Sabti da ko jagori.
And although there is a great difference, they also have a critical thing in common, and that is in both systems, all we want is to be happy, and we do not want to suffer. That we share in common. It is just that in the mundane system, we only look at the result of happiness, whereas in the Dharma, we recognize that there is a cause. So we want to create happiness too in the Dharma, but we recognize that happiness can only be created if we create the cause of happiness. And that cause of happiness is love. And that is something that ordinary people do not understand. They possess love, but their love is very limited. And their love is very short-lived. It doesn't last very long. And we only focus on this lifetime. For example, between friends, there is love, and they might love each other for a few years, and then all of a sudden those friends become enemies. It is because they don't know how to preserve, how to maintain love. So everything is impermanent. All compounded phenomena are impermanent. That is something we have to keep in mind. And so ordinary people, as we said, only fixate on the outer material world. Everything they do with body, speech, and mind, they believe it is all real. For example, they think that this is my friend. He's really my friend. Or he's really my enemy. But actually, it changes all the time. And so seeing things in this solid and concrete way shows that they do not understand the true causes of happiness. In the Words of Excellent Advice by Sakya Pandita, it says, so you all want to be happy. If you want to be happy, you must create the cause of happiness. And that is also the Buddha's first and foremost prayer. He wants that all beings are happy. And even the slightest happiness that we see in this world has a cause. For example, some people do not experience any physical illness. That has a cause. So the Buddha taught you have to create that cause. And so then we come back to karma, cause and effect again. So it is because somebody who is not sick a lot is in a healthy condition because in a previous life, for a long time, they have refrained from causing harm toward others. They have created the cause for physical well-being. Or there is some who experience mental well-being. All of that has a cause, and at the root of that cause is love. For example, we are born as human beings. The cause of a precious human being is ethical discipline. And at the root of ethical discipline is love. So it is because there is love that we engage in virtuous actions with our body, for instance. And as a result of such ethical discipline, we are born as a precious human being. So we have to reflect on the cause of whatever we experience right now. So when you think about ethical discipline, for example, and you recognize that love is at the root of it, then you reflect that, self and others, we really are the same in that we all want to be happy. He wants to be happy just as I want to be happy. And therefore, I must not hurt that other person. And that is the teaching of the Buddha. The Buddha taught, refrain from harming others entirely and accomplish the benefit of others entirely. So help them as much as you can. And if you do that, you are creating the cause of happiness. So when you have that cause, when you have love in your heart, that is when you are accumulating merit. So one example of a person who possesses merit is, it is said that a person who possesses merit is like the sun. No matter where they go from lifetime to lifetime, they will not encounter any difficulties. And where can we find such a person? There's many people in this world. There is many people who are never sick, or people who are always happy, they're never miserable. And that goes often for many generations, even their entire life. And some people live really long lives, over 100 years old. And all of that has a cause that was created in the past. It is the cause of happiness. It is because in the past they have accumulated love. They held on to love. And they have completely refrained from harming others. So when you recognize that, and that inspires you to create more of such merit for the future, then you will think that I must hold on to love. I must not lose my love. And in line with what the Buddha said, the 37 Bodhisattva practices say, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So all of our suffering comes from wishing for our own happiness or self-grasping. Because we are selfish, we develop other afflictions such as anger, pride, jealousy, and then we act out on them with our bodies and speech. And as a result of that, of such action, we take birth in the hell realms as a hungry spirit or as an animal, anywhere in the 6 realms of samsara. there's also a lot of suffering in the human realm. And so again, all of that arises from a cause. So therefore, when we pray for beings to possess happiness, we are praying that that they may possess the cause of happiness. May they hold on to love. And so ordinary people in this world, they just think about this life. And so, and then however, there is really only one viewpoint in this world that is, completely mistaken, and that is like a barbarian, kind of totally materialistic view. So basically, people who hold such materialistic view is that they see a person just like a flower. When a person dies, just like a flower withers, it's over. Those who possess more intelligence in this world, no matter which religion they follow, can recognize that there are, in fact, past and future lives. There is karma, cause and effect. And there are different religions that have appeared in the world, and people are upholding their own traditions. But what they all recognize is that there is a mind that does not die. They understand that there is something that goes on. And that is something that someone with such a materialistic or barbarian kind of view does not recognize. They deny the workings of karma and past and future lives. And so in different religions, people, proponents of those religions, speak about the happiness experienced in their pure lands or the suffering experienced in the hell realms. They do have an understanding of the 6 realms of samsara in their own way. So now the holy dharma, the term dharma, the purpose of dharma is to become free of suffering and create happiness. So you want to be happy. If you want to be happy, you have to change your mind. Happiness mainly arises from the mind, not the outer material world. The cause of happiness is in the mind. Therefore, the Buddha said, completely tame your own mind. This is the Buddha's teachings. So to purify your own mind, that is the Dharma. So if you want to experience happiness, you have to find that cause of happiness in your mind. In other words, you have to hold on to love. You have to practice patience. You have to be diligent. If you follow the path of the 6 paramitas, you have a path that leads to happiness. And then on top of these 6 paramitas, there are 4 additional paramitas, and those additional 4 paramitas lead to enlightenment. And those 4 are the paramitas of power, of method, of prayer, and of primordial wisdom. So we have a total of 10 paramitas. And when you understand that, you will think that, so in order for me to attain enlightenment, to be able to cultivate these paramitas or perfections, I have to look after my mind. I have to protect my mind. And if you do that, no matter what you do, whether you engage in mundane activities or practice the Dharma, no matter what you do, your mind will be pure. Also, when we engage in Dharma activities, no matter what we do, we always encounter happiness and suffering, because we are born in this world as human beings. We experience both happiness and suffering. Just as Dharma practitioners, we recognize that the cause of happiness is within our own mind. It is love. And so if we create such power, that this force of merit, and this force will be with us from lifetime to lifetime, and it will not become spoiled. Now, if you only think about this life, if you only after the happiness of this life, that will become spoiled, or it will disintegrate. For example, even if someone has millions of dollars, if they are very successful in a business, for example, one day the economy crashes and they lose everything and they become beggars. And again, they suffer. And it all happens in one lifetime. So in the Dharma, we say that do not just think about this life, but think about happiness in a long-term sense. So for future lifetimes. And the real cause, the actual cause of such happiness is love. And if you have that, no matter what you do, you create the cause of happiness. You create merit. So someone who possesses merit is not just someone who can make a lot of money, but what we have to make, what we have to collect is actually love, by holding on to love, by not letting love and patience go. This is what the Buddha called bodhicitta. And he said, so bodhicitta is similar to lion's milk, the milk of a lion. A lion, because a lion is not afraid of any other animal. If you have bodhicitta, if you have immeasurable love, then you have no need to be afraid of anything. You will not be afraid no matter where you go in the 6 realms. And so the important thing that you understand when bodhicitta arises is that the mind will not die. And death is really our greatest fear. We're always afraid I'm going to die. But when you understand that the mind cannot die, you see death more like an exchange of clothing. You just change a pair of clothing. Because you know the mind will go on. Either it goes to the state of enlightenment or it goes down into the 3 lower realms, but it goes on. So that is what bodhicitta recognizes. The mind cannot die. And then, however, there is suffering in that mind, and I don't want that suffering. So if you don't want that suffering, you have to accumulate merit. You need to cultivate love. So that is really the essence of the Buddha's teaching. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So the Buddha really said that what's most important is a wish to benefit others, no matter what you do, whether it is a mundane activity or a dharma practice. You need to have an altruistic mind. That is the Buddha's teaching. And then also, so there is this begging bowl. And Lord Jigten Sumgön had said that all of my followers must hold such a Buddha's begging bowl. And so for this reason, it is a kind of a main practice that we do in the Drikung Kagyu lineage. But of course, we also find it in other traditions. But mainly in this tradition, we make it a point that we really hold on to such a Buddha's begging bowl.
상계지도 상계가 포를 해서 대로 상계 가래를 앞서서 상계가 추시해요 그래. 추디만 샘도 주고 그래. 추디 샘도 주고 그러지. 샘 주고 가래지. 나오 남한테 상만을 요래. 나오 나한테 파욕을 이는 피고 쌈을 놓지 something. 주디 주고 파 주고 그래. 그래. 다 나오 잡아도 파욕 이 차를 이 샘지도 피고 상가지 피고 쌈을 놓지 정세. 내가 추대래. 내가 다 게디고 아 정말 짜비도 마시오. 짜비도 마시오. 짜비도 마시고 그런가. 짜비를 가래 짜고 나 동네를 짜고 그래서 속이 짜고 사지를 짜고 그래서 사지 거기 잡고 말이지. 저게 잡고 그래서 저게 짜고 나 저게 나지 말 파욕을 이는 삶도 가지를 새끼를 피고 썰로 삶아 정제 되게 창제 취에 다디 로디 이피로 딱 바로 정제를 새도 삶아 작아도 다디도 딱 바로 새는 차공라지 차로도 동네 탑에 나는 나래만 좀 제껴요 말이 동네에 나래 너가 못 되나 동담게 대마도 나요 말이 동담게 대마도 샘 남파나지 남파를 말이 내 맛이 바로 내 같이 동담게 대마 통고 봐도 그도가 대마 인피를 놓대다 좀 말아야 되나 그 사제 가는 길에 다 당리 동네 탐지 당진을 맞은 거 직접 못하고 센터지가 내와 탐지 인피를 놓으면서 파라드스로 용띠 내가 소리지 대와 타동 사제 고마대 들 사제 추 용띠들 지나 다 사제 자치 머리 사제까지 추이지 성도 취지들이 소소하게 취지 양소나 소소 내가 버리게 되어 다도 사제 고방 톱톱거도 하점 개발해 버리 사제지들이 취지들이 이 가서 따자고 따가게 나가 잡고 오늘 신필을 로송거 새끼들 피고 섬으로도 나한테 파요고요. 내 말로 참아 내가 버려가 가방나 자고들이 약하는 말이 되다고. 대중은 다 때려 나도 좀 왔더라. 다 이거는 왔다가 다 잡을 족바속도 너희 탐지 나디는 저거요래. 너희 최종 가리를 나디는 맞고 직당마도 내 편지가 인피를 오나 너희 좀空요 말이. 편지 직접 속 잡지. 네가 그 처참성 주바 동서들이 너희 저거요. 다 너희 참아 대시하면도 나디 중으로서 이 나디 파용을 나디 들다서 미속 subject만 도와를 좀 농해서가 나디 돌려고 유명적 적들이 딸 차도 하고 이 나디 약속 파요 이 가지고 습지를 피고 많은 습지 섭지를 피고 서로들 이 제가 세도 쌍마 차고 세도 쌍마 차고 들이 시합치를 줘요래 들이 내도 참아 하고 대형은 들이 세도 랍치를 줘요래 자공 차도 말 시합치를 줘요래 내가 산지 주 견딘데 내가 견딘 바래 견딘방에 생긴 쇠하고도 쇠하면 또 오늘로 땅 앞에 뭐 차지 막 견딘 바래 생긴 쇠하면도 당에 다소 오치게도 산 이런 거 섞어버린 거지 이 고추도 지서리마한테 폰도 좀 거래서
And so that is because when we hold or keep such a begging bowl of the Buddha, so what happens in our mind when we do that? There are three qualities or three things that come to mind. The first is that when we have such a begging bowl, we remember the Buddha. So when you have this bowl, you keep this bowl and you see it, you think this is the Buddha's begging bowl. So then you remember, so what did the Buddha say? What did the Buddha teach? That's the second thing you remember. The Buddha taught the dharma. What does that mean? The dharma, the purpose of the dharma is to transform your mind, change your mind. Now we all grasp it as self. We have a strong sense of me. So when we practice the dharma, we let that go, and we, instead of thinking about me, we think about others. We think, how can I help others? That is the dharma. That is how we transform the mind, by letting go of me, this thinking of me, and instead thinking of others. That is the second thing that comes to mind. And the third thing that comes to mind is the Sangha. So since I am a Dharma practitioner and I have received the refuge vow, I am a Sangha. And having received the refuge vow, what do I seek refuge for? I want to be protected from suffering. That is why I seek refuge. And who can protect me from suffering? Is the Buddha. The Buddha can protect me from suffering. But then the Buddha also said, I can't really protect you from suffering. Actually, you have to protect yourself. And how can you do that? By letting go of this thought of me and instead thinking of others. And the Buddha said, always sustain this mind. Always hold on to just this mind. A mind that wishes to benefit others. If you only hold on to this mind, your mind will become pure. When you only think about yourself, the mind becomes like an ice block. And as we said, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. There is not a single suffering that doesn't come from self-grasping. Everything arises out of the wish for one's own happiness. And actually, ultimately, this me the self does not really exist. Our ultimate reality is that our true nature is, we are like space. The mind is like space. We are non-dual, not separate. But until we know that, until we see the ultimate truth, we need to rely on the relative truth of altruism. So that is the teaching of the Buddha. Never separate from the altruistic mind. And the root of all suffering in this and future lives is self-grasping. The root of all happiness is love. And then the practice of the 6 paramitas and so forth. If you have love, you will experience happiness in the higher realms temporarily and ultimately attain enlightenment. So, and that is these are the qualities that arise by holding such a begging bowl. So you remember the Buddha. When you see it, you remember the Buddha, and the Buddha was so precious because, secondly, the Buddha taught the Dharma, and thirdly, I'm a Dharma practitioner. If I practice the Dharma, I will find temporary happiness and ultimate enlightenment. When that comes to mind, you will feel that the Buddha was so skillful. The Buddha was incredibly skillful by giving us the Dharma and the refuge. And then you will think that if I want to be protected, so to speak, I have to protect myself. And I protect myself only if I sustain an altruistic mind and let go of my selfish mind. So these are the things that arise when we hold a Buddha's begging bowl. Otherwise, if we just think of me, we will think that that's my bowl, that's my house, that's my life, or the king thinks that that's my kingdom. It's because of selfishness that we cause a lot of harm to others. All of the suffering in the world comes from that. The wars in the world and also our small problems, it all arises from self-grasping. If you have an altruistic mind, there is no basis for suffering to arise. If you just hold on to altruism and then practice patience and ethical discipline and so forth, there is no basis for suffering to arise. So just those who don't understand that experience a lot of suffering, and the fault of that is really just self-grasping and a lack of wisdom. So recognize that and let go of self-grasping. Once you recognize self-grasping, you will clearly see that it all comes from that. From self-grasping arise the 6 afflictive emotions, and from those 6 emotions arise the 6 realms of samsara. So once you understand that, you will just let go of self-grasping and cultivate a wish to benefit others in whatever you do. For example, if you just recite a single mani mantra, you do so with a mind that wishes to benefit others. If you just do that, your mind will always be pure. And if your mind is pure, wisdom will arise in your mind. You will recognize the true nature, the workings of happiness and suffering. You will protect your own mind. If that comes to mind, if only that is in your mind, the mind can no longer become an ice block. Wisdom will further and further increase. So that's the purpose of holding the begging bowl. It makes us recollect the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And most importantly, we remember I am a Sangha. That means I must have love for all sentient beings. For example, if I'm wearing these robes and I do not love all sentient beings, that would be a great shame. And on the one hand, I'm wearing the robes, but then I would only think about myself. That is a great shame. So to remember all of that, so the purpose of holding a begging bowl is to remember all of that. And so in essence, to remember the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha.
되게 다다다고 좀 담을 내놨더니 담배 출력도 이제 띠블록 이띠는 박나시 대박 사디들이다 오 당아 포마빠링아 출력 요 말이지 출력 담지 출력 맨날 가야지 담비 출력도 지금 물론 이해하지 또 루조 뭐지 샘조체 샘조체나 답이 기록돼 접시나 다 내가 배만 다독되어 가지고 좀 마시나 다 출라들이 양 중은 저거 요래 샘장만 맞으나 샘게 출라 나도 저것들이 소시 기록 좀 소시 기록도 다 주고 요소 이 기록다 이제 주시나 다 기록을 때렸다 답을 되게만 무서워 요래 내 기록 좀 말이 싸움하게 주래 같이 가시는 족바자 예수는 족바자 낭반 족바자 족바자 때 출말에 출중래 출이 좀 말이 나지게 주래 출 나지는 레소들이 출도 누웠다고 미통을 줘서 내 피만 맨 맞추고 차요 대양들이 나지의 동인 사진 공시 동네 말이 나지 돌리도 취직을 가지고 사람들이 내 세대 철도도 차가 나는 막는 거 내리들이 다 기록을 주고하는 것 같아 답지 추주 말이 들럭고 추주 밤도 들럭서 소리 대사로도 취시 받았다 삼제리 주로 서라들 삼제 공고 그래 주바 공고 그래 저막 동고 저섬 쏜고 그래 뜻같이 장남과 뜻바는 뒤들은 쭉 거래 뭐 주로 다 나야 보이 이리 다 예시랑에 나 예시 아빠 주로 가시 아마 주로 이리 주고하자 다들 나도 좀 동로가 단지가 좀 추기 좀 말해서 대사로도 다들이 출 접시서나 이제 물론 거울에가 짜장 내서나 출리저다고요 그래 다르게 봐 가을에들 샘조치 보래지 빼는 공장시 뭐는 못하소다는 줄래가 제로나 오게 몰래 거기가 못하소요 그래지 못하소는 대체 못하게 생긴데 피마 갈때 갑자기 피기도 못하고 피임하고 그러지 이거 샘지 답질 피고 사들이 가지서 이 참아들 까고 개사와 이말을 주려고 그래지 일 조다들 레가를 조다 첨이하고 있으나 저섬이지 가게 가는 루바고 디삼지 나고잖아 당나 모다 조다 모다 가세서 답을 피용지 하고 이 삼지 잡지를 잡소나 이 답지 진짜 코르사와 답지 답을 출리죠 그걸 접시나 늘 마실 적 잡려들 다 가지고 고사들이 타다는 나들이 이런 조경을 내더라 너무 선이 야와는 거 그래지 야와라 가리 시다를 했지 야와 성우 시다를 했지 이는 난샘 때 시다가 성우 때래 대하고 레좀 내대셔도 마실 줄도 하고 말이 레좀 내야 보시도록 이 취지지 네 좀내 하고 소나들이 세무사업지 농된 직디 거기 사와래나 아스남 사도 스남시 바데 가래리 이는 페인바 요니 마체 랑라 데와토를 지와를 제와 담일라 야 난게 지바탕은 스남 요리 저런 돈은 머리리 주바군을 도담보 동지고 지바처럼 주바스면 돈이 매용티 토크 요리 텔레티는 삼띵의 시라로 뛰는더니 다속 사지에 고막 septam마 잡고 요리 바로서 막 조장 때리 대삼로다는 대삼마디 삼지 찍고로 차거든 삼지에 집에 나고 자거든 하고서 들이라가 될지 못지나게 저나 가리지는 내가 가리지는 샘들들이 집을 못해서 말하나 사와 출린 정도리 세대 나디를 답에 출력을 넣나야 중요한 안 정도리 이제가 하고를 집에 차지 좀 하고를 주저봐도 좀 놀록도 될 이런 코비 취답지 배우는 좀 용도지요리 대답을 하고 그래야지.
So now we understand that there are these two systems in the world, the mundane system and then the spiritual system, the different religions. And so then then you may think that there's these two systems. So I'm a worldly samsaric being. I'm not a religious practitioner. Some people say that. But then what really is so to speak, the dharma, or the religion? The only difference is between the worldly ways and the dharma ways is that in the worldly ways we focus mainly on the physical, the outer world, and the dharma and the religion says don't just focus on the material, but the mind is actually more important. So a Dharma practice is about the mind. And if you know how to practice the Dharma properly, you will create the cause of happiness temporarily and ultimately. Or you will find temporary benefit and ultimate happiness. And even if you engage in mundane activities. On the other hand, if you don't know how to practice the religion or the Dharma properly, in an authentic way, then even though you practice the Dharma, it still becomes flawed. Because, for example, one might be a Dharma practitioner or a follower of any religion, but if the mind is not pure and there's a lot of self-grasping, one might think that, well, my religion is right and the other ones are wrong. My religion is the better religion, and then you look down on other religions. There is a lot of conflict in this world that arises in the name of religion. However, this is not the fault of the religion. It is the fault of the people's minds who create all of these problems. And as a result of self-clinging in the mind, for example, Muslims fight with each other, Christians fight with each other. There is also conflict within Buddhist communities. It's not the fault of any religion. It's the fault of self-grasping, the fault of the mind of those people. So if you cannot let go of self-clinging or self-grasping, even if you are a Dharma practitioner, it is like you're taking medicine and make poison out of it. Then it is of no use at all. It actually can cause a lot of conflict and harm. It is because the self-grasping mind is like poison. It makes everything poisonous. So this is really what the Buddha said. The Buddha said, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. We only think about ourselves, and if we only think about ourselves, the mind solidifies into this a small block, and you only think about me, even if it is in the name of religion, even if you practice the Dharma. And that is why it is said that the Dharma practice itself is not what's most important. What's more important is how you practice the Dharma. And so the Dharma, again, is love. And love is something that anyone needs. So if you recognize that, then you will walk that path of love. You will practice love, you will practice patience, ethical discipline, generosity, and so on. And essentially, the different paths are the same in all the religions, essentially. The fault, the conflict arises when we begin to cling to me, the self. For example, in Christianity, one may think that, well, my tradition is that of the Father God. And my religion is that of the Mother, like your Mother Mary. And then they fight which one is right. And that is because of self-clinging. My side is right, your side is wrong. And that is the fault of self-clinging and not the religion. And so, on the other hand, if you do not practice any religion and you just engage in worldly, mundane activities, but with a mind of love and altruism, that actually becomes the Dharma. You can make any activity become Dharma practice in a very skillful way, because the mind is most important. For example, if you are the owner of a car producing factory, so that is what you do, you make cars. You could have an intention that thinks, all these cars that I produce bring a lot of benefit. They're very useful to people. So if you produce those cars thinking that may all these cars benefit a lot of people, then actually the activity of producing the cars becomes Dharma practice. It becomes generosity, for example. Or as you're working in your factory, if you are following all the rules perfectly, you are practicing ethical discipline while you're working. Or if you're practicing patience when things get difficult at work, then you're practicing patience. So you're letting go of self-grasping and you're cultivating love. If that is what you do, then even if you're just a car factory owner or you work in a car factory, if you know the benefit that comes from that, that love can actually pervade all sentient beings. And then your mundane, ordinary activity becomes actual Dharma practice. So this is how it is if you know how to practice the Dharma. If you do not know how to practice the Dharma, then you will only think about me. And then even if you practice the Dharma, it becomes harmful. For example, you may use your Dharma or your religion to cast a spell or to practice black magic on someone and so on. And then if you practice that kind of Dharma, as a result, you will fall into the lower realm, such as the hell realm. So what is a hell realm, really? A hell realm is a manifestation of hatred, of anger. The seed of hatred lies in aversion, a mind of resentment. And so this is what happens if you practice even though you practice the Dharma, you don't actually know how to practice it properly. That is, you don't really look at karma, cause and effect. If you understand karma, that it doesn't matter what you do, whether you practice the Dharma or engage in an ordinary mundane activity, you are accumulating merit. And you can recognize that. You recognize that by doing what I do, I bring great benefit to others. And also, that gives me happiness, not just in this life, but in all future lifetimes. So then on the basis of this altruistic mind, you then also know that all the other virtues come from that. So if you have love, you will naturally practice generosity, patience, ethical discipline. For example, if you practice ethical discipline, as a result, you will find a precious human body. Or if you practice generosity, you will find wealth. Or if you practice patience, you will have a long life, a beautiful appearance, harmonious relationships, and so on. So these are all the qualities that we find in the higher realms. And then through the paramitas of meditation and wisdom, we attain enlightenment. So through the practice of the 6 paramitas, we are purifying our mind. And again, the root of such practice is only love. So that is really the one thing that you have to understand, that you have to hold on to by all means. If you only have love, no matter what you do in this world, in this life, whatever activity or work you do, it will all become virtues. It will all become a Dharma practice. And conversely, even if you practice the Dharma, but you do not practice it genuinely, only outwardly, without much love, then that always has both faults and qualities, but many conflicts can come from that. So again, it's more important to practice, to know how to practice the Dharma than to practice Dharma itself. And if you know how to practice the Dharma, then even a mundane samsaric activity can become a Dharma practice. So this is the important thing to understand.
주로 탐지 쌈지 메차버리 짜치버리 요디의 싸도디 요디지는 대바용 거래 내가 당을 대바디 내가 피바다 누바 양천보 연구요래 피바 체본 연구요래 내가 당을 대바지 누바 대바오 소소라는 주로 갈래 쇼라 라가리 되는 다세 탐지 라티 용디 하고는 라티를 되는 진비 이시 요래지 제부 통계 요래지 제부 설레 요래지 진바 제가 누바서 요래지 누바지는 진바 내바서 선지 대선 하고 진바기 생기 탐지 강한 제가 요래지 별로 사제가 마음에 담아 생기 탐지 생각하니 제가 요래 내 문제로라 제와라 생기 탐지를 잡아 제와 당진을 되는 유모가디甚至 동해의 당진이 막 때로 삼재가 되니 제와 요래지 제와라 되니 이게 제배봐 담보 사바 제배봐 이게 제배봐 요 제와 요래지 네바 산지에 대라는 게 이가 대한다 다음에 대바 너버대바 동해에 도두 라기 생기 탐지 라기 보면 도두 너버대바 이치게 대바 사제 되어서 봐 쇼키 못되는 사제가 삼재라는 거 줄려는 랑 샘대양 사제리 들이 자롱로 대셔서는 사제 가까이 온 말에 오 샘을 삼진지 쇼키 못지라 나 다디 매바 로데 대 이치래 다디 매바 로나 들이들이 이몸 쪽이 온 말에 그때도 이치게 대바지 대바성대 야고 하고는 이 대세와 당 대바지 잡을게 기록 탐지 약보래시 제일 맞지 라탐지네들이 당선 남과는 본인이 제자체 지내를 그래서 몽이제도 이제 말이지 내 강래들은 죽은 남과나지래지 로그 자초는지 답을 줄이 시작함탐지래 죽은 로아는 소시 적주네 무슨 도고서 연구용을 가려 삼재 연구용을 했어 내가들이 삼재지 무슨 적것이 봐야 서들이 들어 그러다 소시 적이 말 들이 적이나요 나가 삼재지 시작을 가까리 들이는 들어오고 쫓거리요래 벨테를 돌때를 들어오고 뭐 좀은 좀 자고들이 요래 로모요 거서 따탈에 속자가리는 대답지 제가 달 하고 요래 뒤는 좀니 들이 들어오고 라는 속에 쫓고 요래시 뒤배를 들리더니 사제를 더바를 쫓되네 로아를 또 소시 적지는 무슨 마지막 갈 트배에다 삼재치 보러지 들자게 sepjite datel dadi chimo nyumo mama boyore 들지가 되게 다 가는 다른 기계 제보를 되게 기계 대처 차원도 거이나 이렇게 자로 셔터고 요래 보통 쪽터고 요래 조금 내봐대 기베 이시 제베 통제 조금 더 진짜 뉴스인데 대 창고를 라탑지 대 창고를 해서 또 다시 시들이 이시 대바들이 연 거예요 대선을 드리자 나발이 기록탑지 약보레스 라탑지 구세요래 대 라탑지 구서 종교민네가 들인 자총다에 로그 자총다에서 주거랑 받아 올 때도 라탑지 구서 라 서로서 왔다 무슨 요래스 대바체 소소형들이라 이 형들이 셔서는 리더 절도 거데 리더 용서는 세르로 요래 대 마다바 줄이지 마다바 줄이 가래들이 라가 다지는 나오 냠바디 올들이 텔라 들이 유모와테 동에 나바서 샤르무 요래 라미게 대 서려요 말에 라그 세부 주의되는 유모와테 양 샤르들이 동에 용 요래 로아로 대리는 오 들이 대쪽으로 대람서 대 삼년지 라르티 산속 세부를 대리는 다리 찬란데 미로 빼는 트위 자사들이 고작도는 분소도 고작도 대비바 차로 빨리 차로지 요 말에 그런다고 랑그랑 거래 동해랑그랑 우리 대화랑그랑 우리 산속 세부랑 우리 타고 시감샤요 거래 아니 마다버 유모버랑 우리 들이 로아로 차는 거래 랑그 세부 차고들이 상무든데나 저디 제대로 생명이 와대 하고를 들이도 별이 있지는 다 대를 달라를 대 받지나 바리 동네 쪽부터 딱딱하리 오 들이 상무지 미로래 나디 상무 셔서들이 차지요 말에 들이 이시게 대 봐지 들이 다 라답지래 다음 대봐 용띠지 너버 대봐 소소 라기가 너희를 좀 너버 대봐 이시게 대봐 라들랑 그 털로 빠졌던 거 좀 봐 라가 다 죽어래 bên mà làm người bảo tao nữa mà làm người bảo tao nữa cáp thì đi chú chỉ đến từ đấy thôi là mà làm từ đó cái sự nào cũng sao vậy sự chỉ đến từ sao là thế là phải nữa cho nó sai yếu mà bảo tôi mà làm tao rồi thế nào cha đấy nữa rồi cái là từ đấy thôi là thế thì đồng ý thì chọn thôi cái muối chọn thôi cái gì thì để bà đấy thế sao thì học học rồi thế là cái đấy lẽ cái chuyện là đấy tao rồi chỉ để bà là đấy hiện có mà để bà đấy này là cái đồng ý là cho là tháp gì.
So today we are starting our program, and what I would like to speak about today mainly is about faith and a pure perception. That is something that we should have a very clear understanding of, and when we practice the dharma. And so when we cultivate faith, so we have a mind of love, and we direct that pure mind toward the higher beings, then that becomes faith. And if it is directed toward ordinary beings, sentient beings, then that mind becomes love and compassion. So now for us in the beginning, in particular, faith and a pure perception are very important. There are three kinds of faith. There is the clear faith, the longing faith, and the trusting faith. The clear faith understands the qualities, can see the qualities. For example, we have mentioned today there are many different religions in the world. You can see the qualities in all of these religions. They all possess qualities. When you see that, you think that all of these religions or spiritual paths are incredible. They are extremely precious. So that is what you understand if you see their qualities. Then second is the longing faith. As of, regarding the first one, if you have clear faith, then your practice will actually become very effective, very powerful. Then second is the longing faith. So whichever religion or spiritual path you follow, or whichever deity you practice, so first of all, you know the qualities of the deity. And so what are the qualities of the deity? The qualities are, there are many qualities, but there are three main qualities. And these are: the deity possesses omniscient wisdom, compassionate love, and the power to grant protection or enlightened activities. So with wisdom, the deity knows the minds of all sentient beings. For example, in the prayer, the aspiration prayer of Deva Chen, it says in there that the Buddha Amitabha knows the minds of all sentient beings, because his mind pervades all sentient beings with great love. And he recognizes that sentient beings suffer because of self-grasping and the afflictive emotions. And what they need is love, so he pervades them with great love. So first there is immeasurable love, and from that arises immeasurable compassion. So that is the compassionate love of the deity. And then the deity also has the power to grant us protection. So the Buddhas all see that we suffer, and they want to free us from suffering. They want to help us. So they do not only think about themselves, they think about they think about all sentient beings. And so that is what gives them the confidence of benefiting sentient beings with immeasurable love. And then that love pervades you. And when that love pervades you, you develop the third kind of faith, which is the trusting faith. So the longing faith is the wish to become free from suffering. And the trusting faith is when you then, when you understand my mind is actually the Buddha's mind. So once your mind becomes pervaded by the Buddha's love, you realize that. because the ice block in your mind is melting. And then you realize, I'm actually not separate from the Buddha. I must cultivate great love and compassion, just like the Buddha. You develop trust in that. So you cultivate trust in love and the 6 paramitas and so on. So these are the 3 kinds of faith that we first need to understand, whatever religion we practice now. So for example, you follow a certain tradition. If you have a clear faith, you will understand the qualities of that tradition or a certain deity. And the quality of the deity is that they possess great compassion. We often say that all men or males with compassion are Chenrezig and all females are Tara. So what Chenrezig really is, or that the deity really is that their mind is the Dharmakaya, which is like space. There's some Bogakaya is the form of the deity that appears like a rainbow in the sky. The Sambhogakayas mainly appear to pure disciples in the Pure Lands. And then there's the Nirmanakayas that appear in the various forms of sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara. For example, there is Nirmanakayas, or in other words, a Buddha emanation, for example, in the animal realms. So that animal appears like an animal, that Buddha appears as an animal, but it's a different kind of animal. An animal that possesses great love for the other animals, that has a much brighter mind, that wants to protect and help the other animals. For example, in insects, even like an ant, for example, they have different beings in there. They have different hierarchies. There are some who are like the king or the queen. Some are more like the helpers, the ministers. And then this is the same, it goes for all the animals, really. That's something actually that science nowadays understands too. So the Buddha appears in the various bodies of sentient beings in the 6 realms. And he appears without fear, out of great love for those sentient beings. And those sentient beings, they possess self-grasping and many afflictive emotions. So the Buddhas come to pervade them with love. That is what will melt their ice block. The Buddha's love is like hot water that can melt the ice block in sentient beings. So that is that power to grant protection. So all the deities or Buddhas possess these qualities of knowledge or wisdom, compassion, and power to protect us. So when you think of that, when you think of the qualities of the deity, a trusting faith arises in you. And when you have trusting faith, you will see everything as good. You will think that all religions in the world, for example, are good. And the deity that appears to me is the actual deity. You will have full faith in that. Even though that the deity does not appear in a physical material form, it appears like a rainbow in the sky, but it possesses the powers and qualities. The deity's mind is the space-like Dharmakaya, and the form is the Sambhogakaya, which is like a rainbow. And when you pray to that deity, the deity will actually be there. And also after you have died, the mind will go on. You're just leaving behind your body. You're just exchanging bodies. And so ordinarily, when we move on after death in the bardo, we assume an impure, illusory body. And that is kind of a mental body where we still cling to an I, that there's a me. And due to that, we develop the same afflictive emotions also in the bardo. And then many different suffering and frightening manifestations will appear to us in the bardo. Naturally, because they are the reflections of our own mind. If the mind is filled with afflictive emotions, then the various appearances of the 6 realms will naturally be projected. what will protect us is our mind of love and compassion, or the bodhicitta that we receive from the deity when we practice, when we supplicate to the deity. So, for example, and the visions of the bardo are like a film that is projected from like a, how do you call it, a film box. So you have a projector and you have a screen, and the bardo visions are like this, the film that we see on the screen. And when love arises in the bardo, then instantly that film stops. It cannot appear, because what appears is your own mind and nothing else. All these confused perceptions in the bardo are your own mind. All the suffering is your own mind. All happiness is a projection of your own mind. The Pure Lands are a projection of bodhicitta. And the 6 afflictive emotions project as the 6 realms of samsara, just naturally. So the seeds of any experience that comes to you is actually within your own mind. And you understand that when you see that everything comes from my own mind, you will really begin to believe in karma. So now in the bardo, if in the bardo you are able to remember the deity with faith, then this is how the deity can then protect you from the frightening appearances of the bardo. Because when the deity arises, then self-grasping does not arise. And then the deity will naturally be there instead of all those dreadful appearances. So therefore, we must cultivate faith in the deity. So first, a clear faith where we understand the qualities of the deity. Then a longing faith where we want to become free from suffering, not just ourselves, but also others. And then that we need to trust in the power of the deity, the trusting faith. That is, you trust that if I'm able to remember the deity will protect me, because the deity too is an appearance of my own mind. And for example, when you have a bad dream at night, and in your dream, if you're able to remember Chenrezig, then there is no more nightmare, because Chenrezig is also your own mind. And when Chenrezig appears, your own mind appears as Chenrezig, then there is no more nightmare. There is no more confused vision of your dream. And the same then happens in the bardo after death. And so this is how the deity protects us from suffering if we are able to remember the deity. But that is why it's very important that we understand those 3 kinds of faith really, really well. And that we, in line with that, understand karma, how that connects to karma. So again, this pure mind, as we mentioned before, when that is directed toward the higher beings, it becomes faith. And that becomes a method to become liberated from suffering.
그래서 다 적당히 취남 탐지 고সম남이나서 네 고대 이가서 사제 고সম는 걸 고섬 많이 봐 적자 요 말이지. 내가 그래서 어떠다 그런지 이제 띠 감대까지 쭉 거래. 쭉 가야를 낳고 요들 매제는 다 그래서 네 라면남 정도다. 줄이 쭉 또 벌써 이제 류들 쭉 거래지. 다 롱셈 남도나 롱거리스. 때까지 도는지 물라문이 다 롱거지를 줘요래. 다 레당이 가는 물라문이 레가는 점을 거 과자인데 이 롱거리스. 어디 이제도 셈도 그렇게 죽어래지. 독토를 롱거리. 셈 죽어래지. 셈 죽어들은 나지니 요만 남가다 다 하거든요. 줄이 쭉 또 벌써 줘로 속도 롱거 또 벌써 줘로 셈이 죽어 또 벌써 줘로디. 이 대라 사탕어서 무보던 세만의 시인이 그렇게 뛰가 차다가 똑바로 내려들이 말하면 라면을 뛰는 좁아지다 말함상인 라면을 땅에 오래 그 조과자게 요베라 갑들이 영생 내로 통내서 조과 샘로 샤대요 왜 메롱은 소리 샤를 메로 그래 나도 메로 그래 그랬더니 나도 루이데로 거는 나도 메도 보면 루이데 좋다 이제 맞다 가지 거기에 체 돈이 되는 식도 그래 대마직 받대 내체 애당 대기 얼마도 줄을 쪼걸 또 버려 찌위 까야 받는 이송 소자를 보지 쏘는 오 줄이들 잡은 지디 감도 찌위나 길에 오 줄이들 딱 봐도 대기도 찌위들 대기도 보면 찌위 까야를 같이 까야를 대기를 비슷해서 소자를 뭐지 쏘는 거지 찌위 까야를 같이 까야를 요래지 그래도 생기 쪼걸 똑바로 생기로 되나 lokchep longkor tokpar sengi lode, tiri chi malam ngori tati kwa adam, tiri longkori, malam le tiri longko hako yore ji. Tewe tata ngu se chi na, o tsama ke ngam gili ganyi ma gori, tui nani toni de zama re si. Tiri ngu ne tiri, senlo sheya yoma re, keya kore, kajiro nga kajiro yore ji. Luide gude tsore sana tamji, luide todo, luide selan todo re, kiwa ni toa yore, kawa nawa choa yore, 리토로 샘토야 요 말이 샘도 잡지 오래 가지리 샘을 제시 요 말이지 라니 소디면 소나 가게 죽을 너무 있다게 샘화는 파도와도 처음아 요 말이 나와 그 저도 뒤바지로 나와 저러면이 내가 딱 봐다 저기는 돈을 남아 탑지 손도 딱 봐 요래 가지서 왔다면 요래 내가 마탑지 됐다와도 샘 죽거든 요래 소방대도 롱걸 들고 있으면 가지고는 말하게 남타는 소요래 공이 체지요 말에서 지금 누가 가야 칸 참대요 계속 로망타게 쏘았다면 나 가지는 요래도 뭐는 남타들 다 벌써 오래 내리 지지는 아 저희는 돈가 은혜를 가 가지는 요래 깨고 그랬지 뭐 저도 본서 답게 대소를 어디다 저기도 다 요만 메다다게 돼 내가 본좀 답게 파운 요래지 내가 뭐 메바는 거 본좀 마더니 대회는 롱거시 받으더니 말람문에 하고로 말람들 답어지리데 라롱거 마다버지리들이 말람이 받아 마다버지리 샘다 받았더니 이 차지들랑 세번을 파샤려 거래 저다 나와 탑지랑 그 샘이 쪽랑 샘거랑 우리 대다 하고로들이 거슬럼대들서 리더 쪽거인데 들이 샘이 죽어요매 가디는 죽거를 내가 차라고를 배나 성기문에서 요 말이지 자루문이면 자루데 처리 대하고서는 고아들이 피피고요래 은혜들이 문보치 받을 요 말이지 그 돈이 동하고들이 대탑지 죽을로 죽고 타면 돼야지 대하고 새끼 탑지 죽거래지 록새끼 탑지 죽거래지 야와 해당을 죽거래 생나 여다 생나가 죽거래 야 또뭐 들어 또 먹고 죽거래 대탑지 내가 다 걸면 못하고도 내가 말래 상상이 그것도 탈로고 빼대다 그래 애들이 거스를 공도 뒤서 마들이 진짜 요 말에 대회들이 랑게냐미 제나 돌아요 그래 죽어요 매래더니 늘 죽어서 돌아들 랑게 매도 제나 등에 타야요 그래 대시야 그래
And so it is said that all phenomena have the nature of the three kayas. And it is said that there is not a single phenomenon in samsara and nirvana that does not have the nature of the three kayas. So everything is the three kayas. And now you may think that, but this world is that we are in now, that's not the three kayas, that's like the material world. But also the world is the nirmana kaya, for example. And so what it really is a nirmana kaya, in Tibetan is turku. We often call a person a turku or a nirmana kaya. In the guru yoga practice, it says, grant your blessings that I may realize my body, my own body as the nirmana kaya. And grant me your blessings that I may realize the life force energies, my speech, to be the Sambhoga Kaya. Regarding the Sambhoga Kaya, for example, we can understand the Sambhoga Kaya when on the basis of our dreams. when we dream at night, our mind becomes like a Sambhogakaya. So it is a mental form, but one that still engages in all sorts of activities and experiences different things. That's the Sambhogakaya. And the basis of all of that is the mind itself, and that is what we call the Dharmakaya. And the Dharmakaya mind is the space-like mind where self and other are not separate or are non-dual. So the illusory body is the Nirmanakaya, and the life force energies, the winds, the Sambhogakaya, and mind itself, the Dharmakaya. So when we do not cling to a concrete reality, we recognize that within us. And then, of course, those people who cling to a concrete, true outer existence, they develop many thoughts of attachment and aversion and are constantly in conflict with each other in the world and also in our dreams. There is constant fighting and conflict. And all of that is the projection of our own mind. All that we see is really our own mind, like the reflection in a mirror. And when you recognize that, this reflection can disappear instantly. So, of course, our physical body will not just disappear instantly. We have a physical body for as long as we have the karma to be in this body. But then also this body is impermanent, as all compounded phenomena are. But we will be in this body for our lifespan. And when that is over, then we will go on. Then the body will disintegrate. There's this, like one time someone asked Garchen Rinpoche something about the Nirmanakaya and the Sambhogakaya, and so he said that it is like when you're watching a film, like on a screen, this illusory body. So it is, for example, like when you push the stop button. Then it's not gone, but so you can still see the screen. You just pushed them, you just stopped it, but it's still there. And so then when it's completely turned off, then there's no more nothing appearing on the screen anymore. And so what appears on the screen is like the illusory form that is actually there. But it's illusory, it's just a screen. It's the Sambhogakaya. And we can understand, as we said, the Sambhogakaya on the basis of our dreams right now. And now, for example, also in terms of the screen that we mentioned, sometimes people say that now I'm just seeing you on the screen, on the live stream, on the recording, and they think that this is not really seeing me. But this is actually the real me. When you see me on the screen, you hear my voice, you hear the teachings, and even when the body has perished, it's still there, because the mind also cannot die. This body will perish, because it is born, and anything that is born will age, get sick, and die eventually. But the mind cannot die. The mind will always go on. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it says, so Chenrezig has realized that all phenomena are without coming and going. So within the mind, there is no coming and no going. Also, it is said that you are not bound by the appearances, that whatever appears to you, you are bound by your fixation, you're clinging to these appearances. And so it is how we see things. And whenever you think of me, you can turn on a TV and I'm actually there. So if you, for example, have a Lama who has realized the nature of their mind, the view, even after they have left their body, their mind is one with the Dharmakaya, and they dissolve in the Sambhogakaya. And whenever you supplicate them, they will be there. We can actually also find a story about that in Milarepa's life story. Before Milarepa left his body, he told his disciples, I cannot actually die. Even after I've left this body behind, my mind will continue to pervade the 5 elements. Whoever supplicates me, I will be right there with you. So trust in that. And so this is just like seeing me on a screen, on a recording. That's what I really am actually. I'm actually always there. You just need to also recognize that. But then those who fixate on a physical reality, on the body, they cannot understand that. And they think that when somebody has died, now they're gone, or now they're burned by fire, they're gone. And then that makes them very sad. And don't cling to this concrete reality. Recognize the Sambhogakaya, and again, you can understand the Sambhogakaya through your dreams. So in our dreams, we have a pure or an impure illusory body. And that's the Sambhogakaya. If you have a negative dream, it's the impure illusory body. So when it is a virtuous dream, it is a pure illusory body. But whether it is pure or impure, it is all the manifestation of your own mind. It is said in the 37 practices, appearances are one's own mind. Everything is your own mind, the projection of your own mind. So if you understand that, you can understand how all phenomena have the nature of the 3 kayas. So the body is the Nirmanakaya, the wind energy is the Sambhogakaya, and the mind is the Dharmakaya. If you understand that, you can actually connect to the 3 kayas very easily. And when you do so, you will also realize that there are no real sentient beings, just like there is no real ice. Ice is actually water. If you only understand that already, it's very beneficial. Just understand that things do not possess this inherent or concrete material existence. And this is really the beginning of understanding emptiness. And this is how we connect to the Dharmakaya in our own mind. And so actually, when you understand that, when you understand the kayas, you will see everything as the 3 kayas. For example, all sentient beings are nirmana kayas. The hell beings are nirmana kayas or emanations of hatred. The hungry spirits are nirmana kayas or emanations of stinginess. And the animals are emanations of ignorance. And whatever their appearance may be, it is only temporary for however long that karma lasts, but it will never stay that way forever. When karma becomes purified, again, they are liberated from these miserable kinds of existence. So all phenomena have the nature of the 3 kayas. And on the basis of knowing that, you can understand that if I practice, then I can become liberated, because my true nature is the nirmana kaya, the illusory form of the nirmana kaya. If you make an effort in practice, you can become liberated from suffering. Do you have the blue prayer book? Yeah. So then we're going to read the Samantabhadra prayer. Is it now? On page 40. So this is the Samantabhadra prayer, or the prayer of Gonta Sangpo. And we also have small booklets for you to take of that prayer. That's actually a very beneficial prayer. Everything that you need to know is in that prayer. And also, I would recommend that you use the prayer of Bonto Sangbo for discussion groups. Now, so you have Khenpo, you can ask him questions, but it's very helpful to actually discuss this with each other. Okay. So page 40. Home, everything, appearance and existence, samsara and nirvana, has a single ground, yet two paths and two fruitions, and magically displays as awareness or unawareness. Through Gunto Sangbo's prayer, may all beings become Buddhas, completely perfected in the abode of the Dharma Dhatu. The ground of all is uncompounded, and the self-arising great expanse beyond expression has neither the name samsara nor nirvana. Realizing just this, you are a Buddha. Not realizing this, you are a being wandering in samsara. I pray that all you beings of the three realms may realize the true meaning of the inexpressible ground. I, Gunto Sangbo, have realized the truth of this ground, free from cause and condition, which is just the self-arising awareness. It is unstained by outer expression and inner thought, affirmation or denial, and is not defiled by the darkness of unmindfulness. Thus, this self-manifesting display is free from defects. I, Gunto Sangbo, abide as intrinsic awareness. Even though the three realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear. There is no attachment to the five desirable qualities of sense objects. In self-arising consciousness, free of thoughts, there is neither solid form nor the five poisons. In the unceasing clarity of awareness, singular in essence, there yet arises the display of the five wisdoms. From the ripening of these five wisdoms, the five original Buddha families emerge. And through the expanse of their wisdom, the 42 peaceful Buddhas appear. Through the arising power of the five wisdoms, the 60 wrathful Herukas manifest. Thus, the ground awareness is never mistaken or wrong. I, Gunto Sangbo, am the original Buddha of all, and through this prayer of mine, may all you beings who wander in the three realms of samsara realize this self-arising awareness, and may your great wisdom spontaneously increase. My emanations will continuously manifest in billions of unimaginable ways, appearing in forms to help you beings who can be trained. Through my compassionate prayer, may all of you beings who wander in the three realms of samsara escape from the 6 life forms. From the beginning, you beings are deluded because you do not recognize the awareness of the ground. Being thus unmindful of what occurs is delusion, the very state of unawareness and the cause of going astray. From this delusive state comes a sudden fainting away, and then a subtle consciousness of wavering fear. From that wavering there arises a separation of self and the perception of others as enemies. Gradually the tendency of separation strengthens, and from this the circle of samsara begins. Then the emotions of the 5 poisons develop. The actions of these emotions are endless. You beings lack awareness because you are unmindful, and this is the basis of your going astray. Through my prayer, may all you beings recognize your intrinsic awareness. Innate unawareness means unmindfulness and distraction. Imputing unawareness means dualistic thoughts towards self and others. Both kinds of unawareness are the basis for the delusion of all beings. Through Gunto Sangbo's prayer, may all you beings wandering in samsara clear away the dark fog of unmindfulness, clear away the clinging thoughts of duality. May you recognize your own intrinsic awareness. Dualistic thoughts create doubt. From subtle attachment to this dualistic turn of mind, dualistic tendencies become stronger and thicker. Food, wealth, clothes, home, and friends, the 5 objects of the senses, and your beloved family. All these things cause torment by creating longing and desire. These are all worldly delusions. The activities of grasping and clinging are endless. When the fruition of attachment ripens, you are born as a hungry ghost, tormented by coveting and desiring, miserable, starving, and thirsty. Through Gundu Sangpo's prayer, may all you desirous and lustful beings who have attachments neither reject longing desires nor accept attachment to desires. Let your consciousness relax in its own natural state. Then your awareness will be able to hold its own. May you achieve the wisdom of perfect discernment. When external objects appear, the subtle consciousness of fear will arise. From this fear, the habit of anger becomes stronger and stronger. Finally, hostility comes, causing violence and murder. When the fruition of this anger ripens, you will suffer in hell by boiling and burning. Through Gundu Sangpo's prayer, you beings of the 6 realms, when strong anger arises for you, neither reject nor accept it. Instead, relax in the natural state and achieve the wisdom of clarity. When your mind becomes full of pride, there will arise thoughts of competition and humiliation. As this pride becomes stronger and stronger, you will experience the suffering of quarrels and abuse. When the fruition of this karma ripens, you will be born in the God realms and experience the suffering of change and falling to lower rebirth. Through Gundu Sangpo's prayer, may you beings who develop pride let your consciousness relax in the natural state. Then your awareness will be able to hold its own. May you achieve the wisdom of equanimity. By increasing the habit of duality, by praising yourself and denigrating others, your competitive mind will lead you to jealousy and fighting, and you will be born in the jealous God realm, where there is much killing and injury. From the result of that killing, you will fall into the hell realm. Through Gundu Sangpo's prayer, when jealousy and competitive thoughts arise, do not grasp them as enemies. Just relax in ease, then consciousness can hold its own natural state. May you achieve the wisdom of unobstructed action. By being distracted, careless, and unmindful, you beings will become dull, foggy, and forgetful. By being unconscious and lazy, you will increase your ignorance, and the fruition of this ignorance will be to wander helplessly in the animal realm. Through Gundu Sangpo's prayer, may you beings who have fallen into the dark pit of ignorance shine the light of mindfulness and thereby achieve wisdom free from thought. All you beings of the 3 realms are actually identical to Buddhas, the ground of all. But your misunderstanding of the ground causes you to go astray, so you act without aim. The 6 karmic actions are a delusion, like a dream. I am the primordial Buddha, here to train the 6 kinds of being through all my manifestation. Through Gundu Sangpo's prayer, may all atum. Aho. Hereafter, whenever a very powerful yogin, with his or her awareness radiant and free from delusion, recites this very powerful prayer, then all who hear it will achieve enlightenment within 3 lifetimes. During a solar or lunar eclipse, during an earthquake or when the earth rumbles, at the solstices or the new year, you should visualize Gundu Sangpo. And if you pray loudly so all can hear, the beings of the 3 realms will be gradually liberated from suffering through the prayer of the yogin and will finally achieve enlightenment. Page 27, the yellow prayer book. 27. In English. Right. Your 1,000 arms are 1,000 wheel-turning kings. Your 1,000 eyes are 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate eon. Your love is boundless like space. I supplicate the Bodhisattva Chandrasik. Long life to everyone on the live stream.
Please stay for a few announcements. Thank you.